It's always an honor to be able to sit with New Jersey Senator, U.S. Senator Cory Booker. And we are in a crazy, chaotic moment where all hands are on deck. And you wanted to talk about voting rights in this moment. We are voting, we are in the midterms. I mean, pretty much everyone is kind of settled out. I know I'm voting next week in Maryland, and I am voting. Okay. But will every vote really be counted? Does it make a difference anymore? Because there's so much foul play. And, who's to say the winner will be the winner?
Well, let me tell you right now, they wouldn't be working so hard in so many state legislatures to pass so many laws trying to take away your vote if your vote didn't matter. I think that some of these folks who are trying to upend our democracy, their biggest fear is that people will realize it and come out and vote them out. And so there's states all over America where we have chances now because I mean, I was talking to Clyburn where their legislature
South
is trying to do
Carolina.
stuff, and he was
Mhm.
telling me the greatest thing he's seen in terms of just record turnouts were coming out, record numbers, beating presidential year numbers, beating Barack Obama year numbers. So we know that when folks are angry, aware of what's going on, and activated, we can actually do incredible things. Even in Texas right now, they're talking about they redistricted to try to gain 5 seats. It looks like they're going to lose a majority of those if the turnout levels hold. So I'm asking everybody, if you don't vote, you will lose it. If you do vote, especially with helping us take back the House and Senate, we can pass legislation to restore Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act. And that's my urgency right now. These next two election cycles, 26 and 28, we could get back the House, the Senate, and the White House and undo so much of this that they've done.
But it's not just about going out to vote. After you vote, you got to stay involved because a lot of this
Yes.
is happening because people are like, that picture, the quintessential picture after Kamala Harris lost on November 5th of 2025. The black women sitting on the wall sipping their tea and the city was burning. The city did burn. It was called Los Angeles. And I'm like,
Mm.
what do you say to those people who walked away from Biden and didn't want to vote for Kamala and voted for him? How do you get them back and get them active and activated beyond voting?
Well, I think a lot of people aren't voting because they feel like when people get into power, they're not doing things and fighting for us. I don't think we have a democracy right now that is going to work as well as it needs to unless we are able to get rid of the corruption we have in our system. And let me tell you right now, every branch of our government, we have normalized a corruption at a level that I've never seen before. From Supreme Court justices that take millions of dollars worth of gifts and other things from people who have matters before the Supreme Court. If New Jersey judges did that, they'd be taken out in handcuffs. But our Supreme Court regularly lets billionaires shower them with cash and trips and RVs and the like. My branch of government, we have normalized senators trading stocks, people accepting corporate cash and PAC money. This is why I do not trade stocks. This is why I do not take corporate PAC money. This is why last year I decided to stop taking any PAC money, these issue area PACs, because I want to show that this money in our politics, we do not need it. And then, of course, you know what Donald Trump's doing. He's showing that the executive branch, he's doing it out in the open. If you want to,
Insider trading, and he's benefiting off of what he's planning or what he knows is going to happen. He goes to the stock market, buys globs of stocks, and makes a profit. And typically, presidents used to put their all of their investments in a blind trust, and someone else would deal with it, not them. But he's like, I'm doing this. I have never seen or heard of this, and no one's screaming.
I, again, we have normalized corruption, normalized it. And while the most extreme example we've ever seen is Donald Trump, who's making billions while he's in office with his
Really?
crypto schemes, with his sons going on the boards of companies that then get government contracts, all of this stuff. But do not excuse the other two branches and what's going on in the Senate and the House, as well as the Supreme Court. We need to make a pillar of this movement, this ending of this insanity that the Supreme Court says that money is speech, that corporations are people. This has allowed large concentrations of capital to begin to control our politics in a way that was never seen before. And it's making our system more and more out of the reach of the people themselves. So I think we need a real agenda to get back the Democrats back in control of the House, Senate, and the White House. But then when they're there, this demand, and you said this point well, hold them accountable. We have to. It has to. Every election I'm running now, I'm centering ending corruption as one of the centers of my efforts because we have to end this system in which it is so corrupting and taking us so far away from the public good. We have real reforms. We need to put term limits on the Supreme Court. We need
Ooh.
we need to add states like Washington, D.C. and Puerto Rico. We need to make sure that we pass ethics laws for everybody in government. No more corporate cash, no more self-dealing. All these things. We have to end gerrymandering and racial gerrymandering. We have to have real reforms in our system if we are going to make our system work for the people and not for the billionaires and largest corporations.
So I also want to go back in our conversation. You talked about some things, some states that you're watching. Georgia, red state of Georgia, they pushed back and there was a victory when it came to redistricting. So that was good news in the fight for just elections, without this racist redistricting or gerrymandering. And I mean, Stacey Abrams didn't make it. But there's a chance that Keisha Lance Bottoms could wind up being governor. Polls were saying that she fared better than her Republican counterparts. But let's see if the pain is so great that people will go out and make their vote the protest. So we'll,
Yes.
yeah.
Yes, she could win that election. Stacey came close. She's one of the most phenomenal leaders I've ever known in my life, and she led the way. She weakened the hinges. We could win a governor's race. We can break through that door, win a governor's race in that state.
So people are so disenchanted right now. They're angry, they're disenchanted. Like, what can we do? Because as you said, things are so corrupt. I mean, like you said, we've got Supreme Court justices whose nephews are being put in school by people who are paying people who like a Supreme Court. I mean, it's a Supreme Court justice. I'm not going to say the name and send them to school, and it's no problem. There is no reform for the Supreme Court. You've got people in your, like you said, they're in your chamber and in the House. They're sitting up there doing insider trading and doing everything else but work for the people and siding with Donald Trump. But one thing that I think Republicans are not siding with him on is this what people call the war of choice in Iran. Talk to me about that because the Republicans are very angry about that, but they're not angry about the other stuff. That's what gets me. Talk to me about what you're hearing in the halls, Senate halls, with these Republicans and what they're saying to Trump and what they're saying to you.
Well, this war that we should have never got into cost
Mm.
14 American service members' lives, hundreds more injured. This war that cost us 70 to 100 billion dollars in our taxpayer dollars. This war that drove up all of our costs because the Strait of Hormuz got blocked. And everybody's been paying more for gas and groceries. We've seen an inflation caused by Donald Trump's war. We should have never been in it. Now, when we went in it, he said he was going to get unconditional surrender. But this MOU is him surrendering unconditionally. He basically
Mhm.
is giving Iran now pathways to tens of billions of dollars. They're lifting of the sanctions, allowing them to sell oil again, and this $300 billion reconstruction fund. And what have we got for it? Nothing. No guarantees on their nuclear program, no regime change, none of the things he said. And if Iran gets that kind of money, they're going to go back to funding terrorist proxies. They're going to go back to killing their own people. Remember, Donald Trump nobly said that we've got to stop this regime from slaughtering its own people. But none of that has changed. In fact, this regime is now more extreme than it was before. So, April, to put it very simply, this is a colossal failure. This is a president that knows nothing about foreign policy. This is a president that's
Nothing.
made us worse off. And now he's made the very adversary in this war more powerful and stronger.
But you know what? It's about oil. At the end of the day, he wanted to take the oil. Remember that? And people were like, no, no, no. It's the same thing with Iraq. Dick Cheney wanted the oil, and people were like, no, 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 no. We got into this thinking, well, Trump got into this thinking that he could do something that the American people in the world said no to. Now, at the end of the day, are you concerned as gas prices rose, they are coming down now because the president tapped the strategic oil reserves. Now, he has not put anything back in it as of yet. Gas prices aren't low enough for him to go and buy, but still, he could be contracting with other people to make sure we haven't heard one word. Everything is in secret. We haven't heard one word about putting it back so that if there is another emergency, because with him, anything can happen.
Right.
What are your concerns about that?
Well, let me tell you right now, this is why we need a Senate that is actually holding the president accountable.
Mhm,
This is what this body was designed for oversight, for checks and balances.
mhm.
You would think that we'd be holding hearings on this. You
Yeah.
would think we'd be marching in cabinet members to have them answer this question you're answering me, but we're not. This government does not function if this branch of government simply lays down and rolls over for the president. That we were
Yeah.
designed to be co-equal branches of government that afford checks and balances, oversight and accountability. And right now, Republicans in Congress have been nothing but Donald Trump enablers, doing whatever he tells them to do.
So basically, you don't have any faith in this agreement, it sounds like.
None whatsoever. He
Mm.
has now basically said, I dragged this country through months of war. You all have had the pain of it all. And what am I getting out of this? Nothing. Oh, they're opening the Strait of Hormuz, which was open before I started. And the deal that Obama did, that got nuclear materials out of the country, the deal that Obama did, that gave us SNAP inspections, insights into every part of their domestic enrichment program, the deal that Obama got, he hasn't even gotten anything nearly as good as that, even though we've all paid far higher of a price. And Iran has made more money from Donald Trump than any sanctions relief that Barack Obama gave.
What are you hearing from Republicans that you work with that I'm sure you have a friendship with? There used to be a time where Republicans and Democrats would kind of coalesce and talk amongst each other, but still stand with their party, but have some kind of relationship. But I hear they're whispering to you guys. And what are they saying about this spending? Because the Republican Party used to be considered fiscally conservative. Just alone that historic reflecting pool in front of the Lincoln Memorial, where the historic
Mm.
speech of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., um, that historic speech where I Have a Dream came from, people were flanking over and falling over almost into the reflecting pool. And now this president claims it was a problem. $14 million spent to make it American flag blue. It's green with algae, and we're seeing chunks of American flag blue floating to the top. We wasted $14 million. And it's going to cost more. And they're pouring that hydrogen peroxide in to kill it's in gallon jugs. This is the American people's dollars. What are your Republican colleagues saying about this kind of crazy mess, as well as the ballroom, the hole on the side of the White House, the UFC match that we are going to have to pay to restore the South Lawn of the White House? What are your Republican colleagues saying who are fiscally conservative about this cash grab, this into our pockets?
Well, before I talk about my Republican colleagues, can I just tell my mom was there on the March on Washington. My grandparents were living in D.C. She
March
was
on
a school
Washington for
teacher.
jobs and justice.
Yes, and she worked in the DC public school system as a speech pathologist. And that summer, she volunteered with the organizing groups for the march. So she was on that mall, manning a booth for people that might need housing who were not going on buses back home after that. She still talks about what that experience was like to be on that mall. As you
Mhm.
said, people draped around that reflecting pool. That is one of the most sacred civic spaces we have. And
Yep.
what Donald Trump did to it, really, with a single source contract, no kind of
No big
accountability on the
contract.
contract whatsoever.
Hmm.
Millions of dollars. And to watch, it's almost like God sent a plague down to fill that pond with algae and just show.
I'm in agreement with you. I'm the Moses kind of plague.
Yeah,
Yes.
yes, yes, yes. It's like this is dirty and slimy, so we're going to make it literally dirty and
It's
slimy.
either the Lord or the ancestor speaking. Somebody
Yeah.
speaking because it's you cannot make a movie out of this.
No,
You
you
cannot.
cannot. You cannot. That there's some kind of something going on there beyond
Yeah.
us. But let me tell you this. It's not just the pond, millions of dollars. It's not just tearing down the ballroom, which is costing all of us, that he did with no approvals. He did with no oversight, no nothing. It's not just the arch he's talking about. It's not just him trying to put his face on our passports and his face on our money and his face on national parks passes. This guy is continually trying to make this nation a tribute to him. The John F. Kennedy Memorial to a slain, assassinated president. Let me slap my name on that.
And
All
that's
of
a memorial to a dead president.
a
He's
memorial
not
to,
dead.
but the
Yes.
reflecting pool is in front of the Lincoln
Lincoln
Memorial.
Memorial.
So,
Yes.
so here he is taking our history and some of the most sacred civic spaces, from the White House to the Lincoln Memorial to the Kennedy Memorial. And what is he doing? He's trying to make a monument to him. He's building the golden calf. That's what he's trying to do. Monument to him, to his false, make himself a false god. That's what
And
he's
what
trying
did the Lord do when the golden calf happened? So that's what we're seeing. That blue is coming up.
Yes.
So
And so and so so when you ask me what the Republicans are saying, yes, they do whisper. They do say things in private, but that's not leadership. That's not leadership when you're too afraid to say in public because Donald Trump then goes after you. Remember,
Mhm.
seven Republicans voted to impeach him. We had 57 votes. And then he systematically went after every one of those senators that voted to impeach, like Bill Cassidy.
Mhm.
So we have a president that is operating more like an authoritarian leader. You cross him, he's coming after you. And we're seeing that everywhere. In fact, we see him using the FBI and other folks
Yes,
to
DOJ,
investigate.
FBI, everything at his
Yes,
fingertips.
they're going after anybody that's a perceived enemy of the President of the United States. This should terrify everybody because as you know this, as James Baldwin wrote Angela Davis, if they come for you in the morning, they're going to come for me at night. If
Come
they're
on.
violating the values of people, be careful because you could be on that list too.
That's right. Okay, we only have a few seconds. I'm gonna do a lightning round for you really fast. Juneteenth.
Mm,
What are your thoughts? We are in this moment. We we have gone back. It's not just Jim Crow. We are going back to slavery with some,
yes.
they're talking the 14th Amendment in Alabama revoking that. They're talking slavery time. What do you think this moment of Juneteenth is for you?
Well, remember that moment in time. Blacks learned that they're free. In those years,
2 years later.
well, remember, so many rushed to vote in those early years. We had black congresspeople and black senators in that Reconstruction period. But about 9 years later, that Reconstruction fell, and they started going massacres in the South. Elected leaders being dragged out in streets and beaten and lynched. And the black representation here disappeared completely. And now we have, this is why you should keep this history in mind. They passed voting laws to try to stop blacks from voting,
That's
poll
right.
taxes, tests, all these things to stop people from voting. And if you got too uppity and tried to register people to vote, you could end up dead. Think about Goodman, Cheney, and Schwerner. Remember,
Yeah.
Edmund Pettus Bridge was a march for voting rights, and they got savagely beaten. But we did finally pass the 1965 Voting Rights Act, and that's when blacks started returning for the first time, getting elected in southern states. And now what have they done? That was 1965. Here we are in 2026. The Supreme Court eviscerates that Voting Rights Act, and before the ink is dry, these southern states are rushing to pass laws like they did back in that era to
Yeah.
disenfranchise African American voters. This is all part of the same story. Now, we stopped it in 65. That we can do the same thing right now. So if you're celebrating Juneteenth, remember your history, remember your obligations, remember your power. We have ancestors that overcame this before. We can overcome again.
Should the Knicks go to the White House And are you running for president?
Don't,
Answer the
don't,
question.
I was about to say, I'm trying to figure out which one is the harder question. I'm trying to figure out which one's the harder question now. Um, it's easier for me to answer about president than it is the Knicks going to the White House. Look, I can just tell you if I was on the Knicks team, given everything that's going on, especially with the evisceration of voting rights, we come from Muhammad Ali, athletes like him. We come from the Brother Parks and others that had their fists up at the '68 Olympics, from Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
Mhm.
Would any of these athletes go to a White House of somebody that's overseeing the evisceration of voting rights? They would not do it. This is too much.
Mhm.
And now, am I running for president? I'm running for reelection, April. I'm on the ballot right now. I got a race in 5 months. I will answer that question for you after I get reelected. I have not written it off. I've not said no. I will
Okay.
definitely think about it hard. But I'm a married man now. I gotta.
And she is gorgeous.
She is phenomenal. She's actually in the other room right now. Like she's right behind this door.
Well,
Uh,
I met her in Alabama and she's like, oh, I'm not. I said, I'm like, on your worst day, that's somebody's, but she is gorgeous. She looks,
inside and out.
well, yes. And she was so welcoming, but the Instagram, social media doesn't do her justice. You did good.
Thank you, my sister. Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome, my brother. So,
All right.
but you haven't ruled it out for
I
running for
have
president.
not ruled it out.
Okay. All right. We heard it from New Jersey's own, Newark's finest. Yes.
Amen.
U.S. Senator Cory Booker. Thank you. Happy Juneteenth.
Thank
And
you.
thank you for
Thank you.
spending
Happy
time
Father's
with
Day
us.
to all the men in your life that are
That's
fathers.
right. That's right. And give your family my best. Thank you so much, sir.
I will. Happy Juneteenth. Take care now.
Take care.
Bye bye.